Happy Wednesday, everyone. We got some fun stuff coming your way. Some midweek strength. After our little adventure yesterday with our handstands, today we're going to take it back and we're going to work on a little bit more quality of movement, working on a few lifts, some key positions, and just waking some body pieces up midway through the week. So, to get us there, we're going to take down a Sumo Stance good morning for 5, wall sit for 30 seconds, just to prime up those quads, those knees, dynamic triangle, 3 to 5 aside, plank lean, 6 to 10 alternating, floor pike hold of 30 seconds, and then a quad plank of 30 seconds. 1 to 2 rounds. You're going to rock that, take that down, and they're going to move into a practice round. The practice round is just a couple of reps or a short amount of time of the movements we're going to use in the workout. So you give yourself a chance to feel some different weights there perhaps, maybe just feel some positions, make sure you're comfortable with what you're doing there in those movements, and then continue on to the work set at loads once you've figured that out. So the movements today in our work set, we have 4 to 6 rounds of work. So again, depends on how much volume you want to give yourself today. Dumbbell Sumo Deadlift for 60 seconds. So with this one, you can either choose to do 30 seconds on one side, 30 seconds on the other, or you can just alternate each rep. It's up to you. Each round, it's up to you. But you'll do Sumo Deadlift for 60 seconds. Rest 15 seconds. So again, we're sticking with that shortened rest period. Into a dumbbell shoulder press, 30 seconds per side with a 10-second transition between sides. So it's going to give you 10 seconds to get that dumbbell into position, get yourself set up and ready for action. If you have a dumbbell at home that is too heavy to shoulder press, you can push press and you can take that down instead. Then you'll have 15 seconds of rest, moving into a single leg RDL, 30 seconds per side with that 10-second transition. Rest 15 seconds, dumbbell floor press, 30 seconds per side. Or if you have 2 dumbbells, you can do 60 seconds straight. But again, if you have a single, 30 seconds per side with the 10-second transition, finishing off with 15 seconds of rest back to the top. And again, tackling that lower, upper piece in terms of our work set. So we have some fun stuff coming your way. Last week we focused a little bit on the squat and the pistol. Today we're going to focus on the deadlift and the single leg RDL. So let's get yourself ready. Let's warm up. Let's have some fun today. All right, let's move around a little bit, you guys. Let's get those arms up overhead. Big stretch. We'll reach to one side. We'll come back through and reach to the other side. Good. Come back through. We're going to shrug those shoulders. Pull the shoulders down. Going to shrug them again. Hold them down. One more time. Shrug and hold them down. Let's scratch our back and reach through the elbow. Just waking up the side body. Big stretch. Scratch your back. Reach through that side body again. Big stretch. And let's forward fold. Touching those toes. We're going to lock up those shins. We're going to come down, framing a foot. We'll step back into our lizard. Taking that inside hand, we're going to plant that hand on the foot. Rock that position. We'll turn the torso to the outside hand. Come back to center. Turn the torso. Come back to center. And turn back to center. Let's lower the back knee. We'll press the hip. Come back to center. Press the hip. Back to center. And press the hip. Come back to center. Plant the hand, straighten out the back leg very slowly. Let's straighten the front leg as best we can. Plant the foot. We're going to keep this dynamic. Straighten, plant the foot, and straighten, and plant the foot. We'll step back into our down dog, reaching those hips nice and high. Set those shoulders. We'll walk those heels back and forth. Nice and gentle. Nice and steady. We'll come back into our plank. We're going to step the other foot up. Lock that front foot in place. We'll turn the torso. Come back to center. Turn. Come back to center. And turn. Back to center. We're going to lower the knee. Press the hip. Come back to center. Press the hip. Come back to center. And press the hip. Back to center, planting the hand inside that foot, straighten those arms, straighten the back leg. We're going to straighten the front leg, plant the foot, straighten the front leg, plant the foot, and straighten the front leg, plant the foot. We'll step back into that down dog, reaching those hips. Let's walk the heels, nice and gentle, nice and steady. Just waking up that body, feeling out those calves. We'll come back into our plank, pushing through those shoulders, tiptoe those feet up, and roll ourselves up. Big stretch, little reach, little reach. Come back down with the arm. Let's rock and roll. All right, now, if you'd like to do some more gentle warm-up, please do so. Pause the video, take that down for yourself. We're going to start you off with this nice first phase of warm-up, just to give yourself a once-over for the body, make sure everything feels good. All right, what we got for you guys? We got a little Sumo Stance good morning coming at you. So just a normal, wider stance good morning. So my feet are going to be in our Sumo Stance, nice and solid here, toes slightly turned out. I'm going to squeeze my glutes, set my body position. If you want to use a hand reference at the chest and the ribs, you can. We're going to squeeze the glutes. We're going to pull the hips back, softening the knees, keeping the big toe down, and that weight through the midfoot. The whole time we go through this movement, we're going to pull those hips back, and we're going to stand up nice and tall. So working through that nice flow, and we're just going to make sure we feel those hamstrings kick on as we kind of take those hips back in that movement. The key in this is the hinge. So think about drawing the hips to the back of the room or towards a target at the back of the room. That's what pulls our torso forward, is that hinge. All right, so take advantage, use that hinge, find those hammies. We're going to move into our wall sit, so come along with me to the wall. We'll talk about our angles there. All right, we're back at the wall. All right, so what we're going to do for our wall sit, we're going to get ourselves roughly about a foot away from the wall. We're going to stand in our squat stance. And what we're going to do is have a nice loose toe out or a slightly toe forward position. So just to really work on the ankles a little bit more, but a nice comfortable toe out is key. What we're going to do, we're going to keep our shoulders and our hips against the wall. We're going to pull our ribs in so they're neutral. And we are going to take the body down the wall, finding that range somewhere above 90 degrees that turns those quads on and really allows ourselves to maintain that equal balance between the legs and the feet. So we're pushing the knees out slightly, just like we would if we were squatting. So those knees are going slightly out, and our weight is sitting in that midfoot range of the body, and we're keeping those big toes on the floor. So just like our normal squat positions, the only difference is that my body is a little bit more back, behind, opposed to a squat. To come out of it, we push those legs straight, slide up the wall, we come back out, and continue. Now, if you don't have wall space that you're comfortable leaning into or sliding up and down for these wall sits, you can do a squat hold, and you can hold the bottom of that squat or sumo squat for about 20 to 30 seconds, maintaining those good positions. This is great because it allows us to use the support of the wall, and it also allows us to hit that good isometric hold, finding those good quad engagements and really working on strengthening up the tendons of the knees. So if you do have it, use it. If not, you can rock that squat hold. Just make sure we're staying active and strong. After those wall sits, we're going to move back into our sumo stance. We're going to turn a toe directly to the side, the other toe on an angle. So it's going to open up our hips in a nice diagonal position. We're going to bring our hand to our thigh. We're going to take our arm up overhead, and we're going to pull the hip back, just like we did in our good morning, except it's going to be into that heel. And that's going to allow us to get that good hinge and allow us to slowly trace down the thigh and the shins. We're going to take it all the way down, and then we're going to stand it up nice and tall. So again, we're using that same hinge pattern we used in the good morning, just a slightly different manner. We're pulling back in towards the heel, but that's what creates that little hinge in the body, and then we just continue to pull back as we lower down the leg. taking it to our depth that we feel comfortable, that really opens up the body a little bit, and we can really maintain that overhead position. From those first three, we're now going to move down to the floor and work on a little bit more upper body stuff to get our core fired up and our shoulders heated up. So we're going to move into our plank lean, just like yesterday. So we're going to get our hands underneath of our shoulders. Nice wide fingers to get good surface area on the floor. I'm going to step back into my plank. I'm going to pull my ribs in so I get that good set position through the pelvis. I'm going to press my shoulders up to the sky. And I'm going to pull myself over to the left, keeping the arms straight. And I'm going to pull myself over to the right. Same concept, keeping those arms straight. And while I'm doing this, I'm pushing through those arms. So I'm pushing the floor away to maintain that good, strong upper back, to make sure that I'm nice and strong through those scapula. So I'm not sinking in between my shoulders as I lean back and forth. We're always pushing through the ground the entire time. Now, from here, we're going to move into a vertical floor pike hold. Again, just like we did yesterday. So we're going to come back into our tabletop. Our knees are going to come together. Our toes are going to come together. Hands are still in the same position, gripping the floor. I'm going to push through those arms, pulling those ribs in a bit, and I'm going to lift those hips up, pressing through those arms the entire time, keeping those shoulders over the hands and those hips nice and high as I can. My armpits are pointing towards my toes. My eyes are looking loosely towards my toes as well, just so I keep a neutral head. Now, during that floor pike hold, we have it for 30 seconds. Now, if you can't hold it for the entire 30 seconds, that's fine. Accumulate 30 seconds in that good engaged position. So we don't want to feel those shoulders disengage or turn off, nor do we want the core, the hips to turn off either. So if you feel those pieces starting to kind of disengage, come out of it, rest, move back in. Because our next one, we're going to continue working those same pieces, just in a different manner. So we're going to get our hands under our shoulders and our knees under our hips. We're going to curl the toes under. We're going to push our shoulders to the ceiling. We're going to pull our ribs in. We're going to lift our knees about 1 inch off the floor. We're going to hold this quad plank or bear position as we pull our hands towards our feet and our feet towards our hands. We're always pressing up towards the ceiling with those shoulders, and we're pulling everything into that center line to make sure that we feel that engagement through the core. Super challenging position. Primary focus, again, pushing through those shoulders, maintaining that nice flat back position. As a quick recap, we have our Sumo Stance Good Morning for 5, wall sit for 30 seconds, dynamic triangle 3 to 5 per side, plank lean for 6 to 10 alternating reps, floor pike hold for 30 seconds, and a quad plank for 30 seconds. 1 to 2 rounds. Give yourself that dose to get your body kind of feeling good, stretching out those shoulders, get some heat in there, and then move into that practice round, which we're going to go through those movements right now. So pause the video, take down that warm-up, get yourself ready. We're going to start covering the movements in our workout. All right, we've made it to the practice round to get our body ready to go for these movements. What we start off with is a deadlift today. And we're going to do the Sumo Deadlift specific. So the Sumo Deadlift is going to bring our feet on either side of the dumbbell. So it's going to cut our foot in half. You can use a kettlebell as well, but it's going to be in the same position. Our feet are roughly in our sumo stance or squat stance, depending on the dumbbell and how big it is, but we are going to maintain a slightly wider position. Our hand is going to come to the inside so we can grab the dumbbell, and it is going to allow us to get a little bit more depth in our range of motion. But again, with this, I want you to make sure your back position is your primary focus over range of motion, okay? So standing tall, we pull the hips back into that little hinge, so I'm maintaining that good position. Now from here, I'm going to lower straight down towards the dumbbell, pushing my knees out slightly so my big toe stays on the floor and my feet are flat. And I'm going to maintain that back position, push through those legs, and stand. On the second rep, I can adjust and switch hands, and I can take it down as deep as I feel comfortable, which is going to maybe not be the floor, or it may be the floor, depending on my range of motion. But again, I don't want you to worry about touching the floor if it's a little too far down. I want you to worry about that back position and and maintaining that proper hinge pattern in your movement. So that's our primary focus. Something that can be really helpful for us as well as we're going back and down, pushing those knees out slightly, because that's going to allow us to really do two things. Maintain a more upright position, keep us in our midfoot, and it's also going to help stabilize our hips. So a little bit of knee out pressure as we get that hinge going, not to the point where we're rolling onto the outside edges of our feet, but keeping our big toes down and just giving us a slight outward pressure towards the knees. Now next movement we have two options. We have a shoulder press or a push press. With the shoulder press, I would like you to kind of gear towards the shoulder press if you can. If you don't have a weight that's light enough to do the shoulder press, ignore that idea and go with the push press, because I'd rather see that overhead position being worked on opposed to like trying to shoulder press and put a lot of interesting body language on that dumbbell. So depending on what you have for your dumbbell, push press or shoulder press. Both of these movements start and finish in the same position. So we clean the dumbbell up. I get that dumbbell into my front rack position. My feet are under the hips or just outside the hips. I squeeze the glutes, I set the ribs, I push into the dumbbell a little bit, and for the shoulder press, I'm building up energy from the floor all the way up to my shoulder without any momentum. So I'm gauging tension, and I shoulder press. Push that dumbbell straight up overhead into that good overhead position. Armpits forward, arm is slightly behind the ear in a perfect world, or even with the ear, and then I come back down, elbow comes back to that same position. Strict press overhead, and I come back down. So we're really maintaining that inner statue as we do our shoulder press so that our shoulder can do the work it needs to. Now the push press, mind you, we have that big squeeze, get set, get the push press, dip drive, we get the same overhead position and finishing position. We just allow our hips and legs to do the work in terms of getting the dumbbell up there. So we want to allow ourselves to use the momentum of the legs to get the dumbbell moving, and then it's just finishing with the overhead position. Keeping in mind, we are using a 3-second eccentric on all of these movements today, so we're going to build some strength there with that lower, and we have to maintain that good position with that lower down to the shoulder. Regardless of the shoulder press or the push press, that 3-second tempo is going to start to get a little spicy as you move through those movements. Now, single leg RDL is our next movement, and you can choose to load this a multitude of ways. So it depends on what you have access to. You can use 2 dumbbells, you can use 1 dumbbell. So if you're using a single dumbbell, we have a few options here. We can hold it to the front of the body by 2 bells. We can hold it with one hand to the leg of the kickstand, right? We can also hold it to the working leg. So all of these different options offer us a slightly different sensation in the body. Neither's better nor worse. It's good to experiment with all of them. But from experience with other people and myself, I find the double bell, and or the side that's doing the kickstand are probably the 2 good ones to start with because they're easier to balance and maintain good position. This side is great, but sometimes it lends us to a little bit more tilt and lean to the side that's working, where we want to stay balanced. So neither position is better than the other, they're just slightly different. Regardless of where you hold the dumbbell, all right, the hinge is the same. So I set my foot down, I bring that toe into the floor just to work on as a little kickstand leg, so it's just there for some balance. I'm going to hold the dumbbell wherever I need to, and I'm going to draw the hip back to the back of the room, bringing the dumbbell to just below the knee, or above the knee, depending on your range of motion in that movement. Hip stays square, we pull the hip back, weight through the midfoot, we take that dumbbell to the knee, and stand. So you'll notice there's a slight difference between the body position or the leg position between the Sumo Deadlift and our RDL. The RDL is a little straighter leg. We're not doing the back and down motion, all right? We are focusing on more like a good morning. So we're focusing more on the back. So pulling the hip back, is what brings the dumbbell down, and then we stand tall. So we're not worrying about that squatting portion of the deadlift. We're just drawing back so it's a little heavier in the hamstring and that lower glute. So take the time, feel that position. Again, same rules apply in that hinge. That hinge pattern in the good morning is what we're looking for, and that's what we want to translate into our single leg RDL with that weight through the midfoot, big toe on the floor. Our last exercise of the day, we get to lay down. We get to take a load off, but we're going to be working on our floor press. So our floor press, we get ourselves set up just like we were going to do a bridge. So my feet are flat, just outside my fingers. I'm going to pull my ribs in, but I'm not trying to hollow out. So I might pull my ribs in to keep things neutral and stable, but I'm not trying to press my low back against the floor. There's going to be a natural kind of lumbar curve there, which is perfectly okay. I'm also pulling my shoulders together just a little bit so that I can maintain contact with the upper back into the floor. My elbows are at a 45 degree, just like they would be if I was doing a push-up, and I'm in that nice kind of, if you were looking at me from a bird's eye view, I'd look like a little arrow pointing that way with the top of my head as the point. From here, I'm going to get my dumbbell in place. The dumbbell is stacked right over top of the elbow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set, and I'm going to start at the sternum, and I'm going to push that arm up to the ceiling, and I'm going to hold that position over top of my shoulder. And then I come back down into that nice 45-degree position. I push up in that nice press, and I pull back down into that position in the 45 degree. So I'm nice and active in that push position, finding that sternum at the bottom, and then finding that shoulder at the top. So nice solid position here at the top with my shoulders still into the floor as a nice grounding and support position. So with this movement set we have, as a quick recap, we have 4 to 6 rounds. Dumbbell Sumo Deadlift High Pull, 60 seconds of just nice smooth movement, alternating hands each rep, or half and half, 30-30, right? We're just gonna keep it going for 60 seconds. Rest 15 seconds. Dumbbell shoulder press or push press, 30 seconds per side. You're gonna do that with a 10-second transition between the two sides for setup purposes. You'll get 15 seconds rest. Single leg RDL, 30 seconds per side, 10-second transition, 15 seconds rest. Dumbbell floor press, 30 seconds per side with that 10-second transition. Or if you have 2 dumbbells, you can do that nice double-armed floor press for 60 seconds, depending on what you have access to. Rest 15 seconds. Now, every movement, every rep has a 3-second eccentric. So the lowering phase of the movement is going to be a tempo. The standing portion or the pressing portion is going to be normal speed. So keep that in mind. We're working on a slow tempo down, 3-second tempo, normal tempo for press or standing and finishing the movement. Have fun with this one, you guys. Explore, have fun, enjoy. Play around if you have different options for loading for these movements. You can go heavier on the deadlift. You can play around with different loadings. So see what you got access to. If you don't, that's okay. Really focus in on that tempo because it's going to help build that strength and build that movement set really well. As always, everyone, let me know how this one goes. I'm always interested in how these workouts plan out with your loading, what you choose, how you take it down, reps, all that good stuff. So let me know and work for quality, have fun, and enjoy. Enjoy the strength work today. Tomorrow we're going to come at you with a slightly higher heart rate and we'll kickstart off that later portion of the week. Bye, you guys.